we tend to glorify people who are talented, right? We put little premium on character. Now, we wouldn't say that holistically. I'm just saying that we are more impressed with the talents of individuals than we are with their character, right? And I really do feel like this is in part because it's hard to see people's character. It takes time. You have to be up close. You got to know them, right? But it's easy to pick out someone's talent. That's what I'm saying. Like, so the emphasis is on like, oh my gosh, look at how they do this and do that. But that doesn't tell me anything about your character. It doesn't even tell me that you spent time in the Word.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, just because someone preached doesn't mean that they spent time with Jesus. What shows me they spent time with Jesus is the character that they've derived from that. How much of the fruit of the Spirit is being displayed in their life. That's different than talent. All right, welcome to the Church Dropout Podcast. My name is Alan. I'm joined by
Lisa.
Church Dropout is a podcast. We talk about issues, topics, and teachings related to faith, life, and culture in ways that are sometimes funny, sometimes serious, but always insightful. If you have not already, please like, rate, and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast at. We would appreciate it. Drop a comment below. Keep the conversation moving forward. And I also just want to say thank you to all you who have subscribed to the channel. We appreciate it. We really do. Even the shares. You guys just shared a lot of videos. And we just appreciate it. We don't take that for granted. Again, we know how busy people's lives are. So, spending 30 minutes or so, less listening to us banter, and say, you know what I mean, over and over again.
I said,
we appreciate it.
Yes,
we do. And speaking of that, before we get into the topic, I just want to say this, like, and I know you guys get it because I hear it in the comments, but we're all about authenticity. I mean, that's really, what we're not trying to put on a show. And so we're authenticity over perfection. And so, we know we got some growing to do. You know what I mean? We're not perfect. We're not podcasters. We're people. And so
and we're not trying to be nobody else but ourselves.
Sure ain't.
So,
too old. You just get to a point where you just don't care.
He's too old.
I'm gonna have to do something with this cord because again, it kind of reminds me, as I'm getting older, it reminds me of, my dad when we were younger. When my dad used to have to go to the store to get something for dinner, we'd be cracking up because he would just put on a shirt. And he really didn't pay attention to the shirt that he would put on. So he put on a shirt, and one time he put on a shirt and it was like a sequenced animal on the front of the shirt. Like it was actual sequence animal on the shirt. And we was cracking up. He was like, what y'all laughing at? We was just like, Dad, listen, you got on mom's shirt or something, It wasn't huge. It was just like a small piece. And he was like, well, I don't care about that. We just going to the store. You know what I mean? And I remember thinking at that time, like, you would not catch me going out without looking decent. You know what I mean? Listen, today I will go to the store with one sock on.
You are lying.
Oh my gosh, Lisa. Lisa,
if you go to the store with one sock on, it'll be an accident.
Lisa.
Because you usually, you'll be like, do I look crazy?
No, I'll be like, I will say I look crazy.
Yeah.
And then go to the store. Lisa, listen, I will go to the store with two different shoes on. I'll go to the store with a slipper, like a slipper on and one tennis shoe.
No, you would not. No, you would not. Stop.
Lisa, I will strike through that store like Tupac in that casino.
Alan,
straight over to the bread section, get the bread, and go right to the register. I don't have no issue. So
when did that change for you?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe when I hit 40. I just don't care. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, man, like as some, it's like, who am I impressing?
I do feel like I care less. I wouldn't say I don't care, but I do feel like I care less. You know what I mean? So, I will like, okay, if I know I'm looking crazy and, like this morning when I got up at like, 5:30 and went and watered the grass, which is like, shows my age. But when I got up at 5:30 to go water the grass, I was like, okay, I probably should just put like some sunglasses on or something. Because I haven't washed my face. I haven't done anything.
Listen, let me tell you how bad I am. Because this be happening, you don't even be here. But let me tell you how bad it is for me. So the stuff I be doing, you probably gonna get mad. But there'll be an Amazon package at the door. And maybe this is too much information. But I have a shirt on and my boxers,
Alan.
I'll just look around and make sure ain't nobody out there.
Alan.
And I'll step onto that porch and go get that thing. Hey, listen.
Yeah, that's too TMI.
Girl, listen. I'll mow the lawn.
Now you know. Let's stop now. Let's stop right now.
Yeah, so anyhow. My God. So today we're going to talk about what should we look for in a leader? Okay, what should we look for in a leader? And I feel like the way we view leaders today, or what we appreciate about leaders, I think in some sense is affecting church culture, right? Why we elevate certain leaders above other leaders, why we appreciate certain leaders over others, or why we even feel like they're a better leader, I think is, in my opinion, I think can be a bit superficial and maybe not what is holistically described in Scripture, in terms of like what we should look for in a leader.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me, of when Israel was demanding God for a king. And everybody around Israel had a king, and they were like, look, God, we like you. You leading us. Cool. But every other nation has a king. We want a king.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We want to be like other nations. And God is like, you don't need another king. You have one.
Right.
I'm leading. You know what I mean? And they were just like, yeah, we get that, but we want another king. And then God goes on this big thing about how the king will treat you and all this type stuff. But when they were looking for a king, they were looking for these outward expressions of what a king should look like, how a king should carry himself. And they chose Saul. But, David was a whole different type of leader, one that they would not have looked at all. And I feel like that's us today. Like, I feel like the leaders that we appreciate or the leaders that we don't know are there would never get an opportunity because we don't even see them. We wouldn't even choose them to lead us because they don't have certain characteristics or qualifications, right? Saul looked like a leader. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He spoke like a leader. He had all of these, he had the king feel, you know what I mean? He had that swag, but again, what should we look at in a leader? And so I think there's 6 things that I think we should change in how we view a leader. But before I get there, like, how do you think, or what are some things that you think we look at today in leaders?
I would say one, definitely catchy. Like, I'm about to sneeze. Get that camera.
What? Don't get that camera. Here, I saw your attitude. Get that camera. Get that camera, Toby.
Oh my gosh. Okay, now the sneeze.
Color purple.
Okay, now the sneeze is gone. Okay.
All right.
So, but yeah, I think we look, what I've seen, is just charismatic.
Yes. Definitely.
Entertaining.
Entertaining how?
Just, attention grabbing. You know what I mean? Just be able to keep people's attention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because honestly, I have went to a church and probably heard some of the best messages from someone that honestly I had to tap myself to not go to sleep. You know what I mean? But I'm saying, because you know what I mean? It wasn't about, this person was not about trying to keep my attention, but more teach.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I was learning, and so I had to teach myself how to,
absolutely. No,
really pay attention to it.
I get that.
Because I was so used to being entertained and being, just getting caught up in, the laughter and all that stuff. You know what I mean? And so, but yeah, I would definitely say, just someone that needs to be attention grabbing is what we look for right now, Yeah.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
And I don't think we intentionally do it, but, I think it's just what we're used to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think we're used to that. I love what you just said about having to train yourself to see things differently. And I think we're going to have to train ourselves to see things differently. I mean, we live in an entertainment-driven culture, so we're used to being entertained.
Yeah.
And yeah, it could be difficult to get something that's totally different.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think those are good points. Any other points that you think?
Let's see.
Or let me ask you this. When did that change for you?
Maturity, growth. When I started, I want to say when I got out of a church that I was in a long time, when I got in and started seeing different, it's almost like when you live in your city for a long time, and so you feel like this is how the world lives until you go to another country or you go to another city, and you're like,
exposure,
right? There you go, exposure. I cannot. I can never think of the word, but you always got me. But yeah, it's just having that exposure to like other leaderships. You know what I'm saying, and being like, okay, actually, this is really what I need. I need this more for where I am now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's really good, Lisa. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I agree with you. I think, I can see that. I don't know if I was ever. I don't think this was intentional. So this is definitely not a badge of honor thing. Like I knew I was never really drawn to the experience, you know what I mean? Like the antics and all of that type stuff. And maybe because I didn't grow up in church, so I didn't really have that as a, expectation.
Yeah.
But I can definitely say though that, I think you're right. I think what you mentioned about what we look for in a leader when it comes to, entertainment, I think, their ability, it's very external based, like even now, like I'm attracted to, I think one of the things that, for me that I'm more attracted to today, and again, I don't know when this shifted holistically, but when I know you, and I experience relationally who you are, and you're preaching, it does something for me. Like it makes the word it makes the word heavier, and it doesn't really matter how it's being delivered or what's being said. I mean, you could fumble through it, mess up, but there's something relationally that captures me. That's why it's important for me, like, to know people. Like, it's I can care less about how good you can preach. Yeah. If there's nothing to know about who you are. Right. You know what I mean? Because, preaching today is performative. Yeah. Hugely performative. So, but anyway, I think those are good examples. I think today, in today's culture, we tend to, look for leaders really honestly based on what we generally look for in, I don't know. Maybe it's almost similar to what we look at in the corporate world, There's really not that much difference, right?
Yeah.
We look for, that charismatic leader in the corporate world. We look for, the person who looks like a CEO, who talks like one, who it's not necessarily if they can do the job or not or anything like that. It's more influence based than it actually is, people based. And, I just think that those things have creeped into the church and has influenced how we actually see the leader.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say is before we get into these things that I think we need to shift towards is that I think church culture has reaffirmed this for a lot of people. Like, I don't think people really even think twice about these things because it's just reaffirmed in church culture. I think we've said this before, like, I've never went to a Christian conference, a large Christian conference, and seen someone on stage that wasn't polished, that wasn't a good speaker, that didn't have a large church, that didn't have a ton of influence. Yeah. There was never anyone that was just a dude.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's always a certain persona.
Yeah.
So we'll say these things matter, but we reinforce the opposite in church culture because we never see it on display. We never see it on display.
Yeah.
You'll never see an ordinary pastor preaching at the Shepherd's Conference. There's a reason why there's certain names that are on the front.
Yeah. Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, what is it that we should look for, in a leader? And I think these things that I'm going to mention are displayed in Jesus. I really think that we need to look to Jesus in terms of what we see in a leader. And I think that the qualifications for leadership in Scripture are based upon what Jesus's life looked like, and how he led. And the Scripture tells us, Jesus wasn't the most good-looking guy. Like he wasn't, a person that, you would be impressed with how he looks. He wasn't the typical leader. He didn't go after the things that most leaders would desire. He's not that type of leader.
Yeah.
There were other things that qualified him as a leader that I think we need to begin to shift towards.
Yeah.
And so I think there's 6 shifts that we need to put into play when it comes to leaders, and then we could just talk about these as we go.
All right.
Cool. All right. So the first thing I think we need to do when we look for a leader is we need to stop looking at knowledge and start looking at wisdom. Stop looking at knowledge and start looking at wisdom. I think we tend to look at what a person knows versus what they do with that particular knowledge. So we're typically impressed with the leader who has multiple letters after their name. We're impressed with leaders.
Titles.
Right. We're impressed with leaders who, they speak, they don't speak, they read all the languages and, they're smart. They know how to quote scripture, where to quote scripture. They know a lot of Bible. The problem with that is that doesn't make you wise.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Knowledge, wisdom is applied knowledge. I rather have a leader that is wise than knowledgeable.
Yeah.
I can go to a leader. I rather go to a leader who understands how to apply the word rather than a leader who just simply knows the word. And I think we typically prefer the leader with knowledge versus the leader with wisdom.